Welcome to the Laurent Collective podcast, where we go deeper than just surface talk.
Each week, we'll explore everything from family, business, creativity, culture, and faith.
To make sure not to miss an episode, be sure to subscribe and hop on to Instagram at Laurent Collective to chat with us about this episode.
Hello.
Hey guys.
Today, we thought we would chat about something that has come up for us and we know is coming up for other business owners. And so we thought it was important to just have a quick chat about it.
Yeah.
And that is the idea that as you, hopefully you should do this. You should always reflect back on your numbers and what brought in income and what was successful and things like that from the previous year. And we have done this recently. And so maybe with it, you're a bit confused because things aren't making sense right now.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're looking back up, a couple years ago.
Exactly.
Going, what's going on?
Exactly. And so you might be struggling with, how do I make business decisions? How do I know what to focus on? And we are right there with you. And so we wanted to just, detail out, just explain like how we have made some decisions moving forward. And we're kind of decided that we will make decisions moving forward for like the next 6 months. And we're going to check in every month and see how things are going.
Yeah.
And so we thought we'd dive into that because we hope that that will be helpful for you as you're struggling maybe to be like, I don't know how to make a decision. None of this stuff makes sense from the past couple of years.
Yeah.
And so to give you a bit of what we did is we track our business numbers. And when I say that, I mean, obviously the income our business brings in, and then what are those income streams? And so we have, different income streams and stuff like that. For things like the products we sell on our website versus cards that are licensed and sell on other websites, to your illustration work, to our course we offer. I mean, like there's some more income streams as well. And to see, we have our numbers dating back till, I don't know when I started finally tracking our numbers, but at least 10 years, I think. But we've been focusing on like the last 5 years and looking and that kind of thing. And when you look at our trends that were happening before COVID hit, there was this like, oh, this is easy to figure things out kind of thing. And then this past 2 years since 2020 and looking at 2021, they make no sense.
Yeah, it's crazy. It doesn't make any sense.
It just doesn't make sense. Like some of it is like, oh, well, I see how we had an uptick that month and things like that in sales.
Yeah, even month to month.
Even month to month of the trends that have always been the trends for business. We had some months that normally are our lowest months, like in 2020, that were our highest months. And there's no reason we did nothing different during those months. Versus, we have talked to a lot of small business owners, and 2021 was a really difficult year. And so our numbers were down in 2021. Luckily, not dramatically, but they were down.
Yeah.
And again, some of the areas and income streams and of sales and stuff like that did make sense as well.
Yeah.
And so when you look at things like that and you're like, great, I'm going to make a decision to do X, Y, Z, like it's really hard to do that and to sort that out and figure it out when data that you may have looked at before to make those decisions isn't adding up. It's not helpful. It is helpful in some ways, but we're in a new territory right now. We have no clue when we're getting out of this.
Exactly.
Or are these trends that are going to continue? Like nobody knows. And I have listened to so many different things and read so many different things of people trying to guess which way the economy is going to go, what industries you should focus on, trends, all of that stuff. And at the same time, almost every one of those articles kind of puts in some word
like
or another
asterisk,
of like, by the way, we're kind of guessing at this,
Yeah.
And so I think, any kind of trend or those kinds of things, it's really hard to say this one's going to last because it may not. And so, I think it was funny because I had done the numbers and I shared them with Pat, and Pat literally said, like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I mean,
That's so weird.
I think it's because again, we were looking at some things and talking about where do we want to focus this year and like all that kind of stuff, and where do we want to like tweak things with the business and all that kind of stuff. And it's just hard to look at those numbers and go, oh, that's obvious. We need to probably step back from that, or we need to push more into that, or we need to completely throw that away and not do that anymore, and none of it makes sense. So it's really hard to go and even think about any of those things.
Yeah, there wasn't a clear
it
direction.
Just doesn't make any sense.
And in the past, I'll be frank, there has been some pretty clear directions of like, oh, we should really focus on that more and stuff like that. And so with that then, like, how did we make some decisions of what we're looking at this year and what we would like to grow and goals in our business and that type of thing? And, we talk about this so much and you guys are probably like, oh gosh, here they go again. But the only way, and this, no matter if you are looking at data from before, and maybe it does make sense. Maybe your data, you're like, yeah, I understand that. Like, I understand why the income stream was up or those kind of things. You still have to go back to like, what is the purpose in your business? Why are you doing what you are doing? Mm-hmm. Because that's going to inform those decisions. Why did you
start this in the first place?
Why did you start it? Maybe even when you started it, maybe because maybe it has shifted from when you started it and you have a new purpose in it and that kind of thing. But you have to go back to that and then look at those decisions you need to make in your business to figure out where you need to focus. Also, then tie in like your personal life. Your personal life is not something to just ignore. And so if you realize, like, in the past 2 years, I've been working in my business for 6 days a week, and I want to go to a point or get to a point where I'm working 4 days a week. Well, that's going to inform the kind of income streams you have, the kind of help you might need, like all of those type of things. You may not pick that you want to sell at markets every weekend then, like that.
Exactly.
That may be,
or if you do want to do, you still want to do the markets, then you take off certain days of the week,
exactly,
or whatever,
and so that is, we have a whole nother podcast, and I can't remember the episode number right now that talks about like how to go into new business income streams and stuff like that. But when you're looking at those, then at the end of the year and deciding maybe where you want to focus more on, it can be hard in where we're currently at and knowing whether or not that's going to be something that's going to continue or that's going to be something that is
especially if it's something like markets where you're like, I don't even know if they're going to do them.
Exactly. Yeah. So the way we did it again is we went back to what is our purpose, and then what are the things in our personal life that we want to be true in our goals as well. And so you have to look at those two things. So an example may be, I don't know, you want to build up your passive income. So you want to build up something that like is income that is coming in that you, yes, maybe up front have to have active involvement with. And there's some things here, it's kind of a maintenance mode, if you will, kind of thing. And so that's something you want to focus on. And so that's something you're building up. Or maybe it's you really want to sell your products wholesale or whatever it is. Whatever the thing is that might be that a decision you're making, take it back to your purpose and say, like, is this fulfilling? Is this helping me move towards this? And then think about your personal stuff too. And does this help me get to where it is, or does it actually hinder? Like we've said no to a couple things recently that were outside of, volunteering for certain roles and stuff like that at first we're like, oh, that's so cool. That falls very much in line with things we want to do. But when we sat down to figure out what is our goals in our personal life and how we want things to look, and what is our goals then in our business, we realized we didn't have time for those things right now. And so we had to say no to those things. And so it really does. When you have your own business, it does affect your personal life and that kind of thing. And so it is good to think through both of those.
Especially if you're a small business owner. I mean, it's just everything about your business seeps into everything about your personal life. It just does. It just does. As much as you try to compartmentalize, it will. So. And
so again, you can look at things. A great example I will give you is our Advent calendars. And so every year since we've started offering our Advent calendars, they have had significant growth year to year. And this year, it didn't really do that.
It kind of stayed
the same. Yeah. And, talking to some other business owners that sell some similar things to us and stuff, they've either stayed the same or they've lost in profit from years past and that kind of thing. And, again, like I said, that's us being very real with you and saying, like, that was kind of hard to see that. And it made us say, like, well, I don't know, do we offer those again next year or not? Because those do take a little bit more of our work and things like that of getting them put together and getting them sent out. and all of that. And I think we decided for something like that, because it's not something that we would offer until the last quarter, that like we're just going to bench that for right now. And we'll make that decision as we get a little bit closer and kind of see how things are going this year. And so there may be some decisions that you can say, well, I'm going to put that off.
Right.
Like it's a seasonal decision or something like that. Put it down so you don't forget about it. Took a little pause there. We had our buzzer go off.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right. But what I was saying was that our look at seasonal things, and if you have to put some decisions off till later, that's okay. Just make sure you mark down someplace like when you need to rethink through that. And maybe you'll have more data by then. Maybe you won't, and you're going to have to, so many things in business, unfortunately, sometimes are guesses and trials, and we have to try things and possibly fail or be successful at them to move into the next thing that will be a success, or will go really well, or that kind of thing. So, but yeah, we recognize that it is a difficult time to decide things in your business. And it's really hard because I think what we've heard from some people is they're like, well, I'm just done, or, those kind of things because of how the past 2 years have been. And you do have to make that decision for yourself. That may be the case for you.
Yeah, that might be a decision that you have to do. Yeah,
and that's totally understandable. But then there's some of it too of like, am I pushing through this time frame and that kind of thing, or do I need to try something new because I need a new income stream right now because for whatever reason the one that was doing really well before isn't, in whatever this weirdness is that we're in. And so I think it's just really looking at those things and making those decisions. And it's hard. It's so hard because we have dreams and hopes for our business. But again, if you take it back to that purpose, there may be something maybe that you haven't thought of, or there may be an area that you're like, you know what? The numbers were down last year, but I know that's what I'm supposed to focus on. And you're confident in that. Like, don't give up on that then. And that kind of thing. Who knows what this year holds and that. So yeah, I think just a bit of encouragement that what you're experiencing, number one, is very normal right now.
Yeah, I think there's so many people that are experiencing it.
If you're feeling confused, yes, right there with you. So many other business owners are right there with you right now too. And then if you're thinking, well, what you don't want to do is say, I'm so confused that I just don't know how to even take a next step. Like, don't stay there. You've got to take a next step in something, and take it back to your purpose, take that next step in those things, and just keep taking those steps and see how they go. And then again, if you get down to the road, a certain point, you're like, that's not working. Okay. We'll shift. Like that's what businesses do. That's what successful businesses have done, or then they've added on to things and that kind of thing, in order to figure out what works for them and their business. And the ones and the people that seem to me that are getting the most life and seem to be authentic in their business are the ones that you can tell they have a purpose behind what they're doing. They're not just out there grabbing for things. I see those
following
people too.
Trends.
Yeah, I see those people too. And you either it bombs really bigly, or you can tell they're completely exhausted, or they quit even though they've done really well, because they're exhausted and stuff. And so if you take it back to that purpose, and if you're not sure about like, oh, that sounds great, how do I figure out my purpose? Like we have some more things coming soon that we're excited to share with you guys, and sorting that out and thinking through that. And we've had a couple of podcasts too on talking through that, but. Yeah, I think that's the key.
Yeah, I mean, I just think about, initially when we started our business, like the purpose behind why I started creating certain things hasn't changed.
Exactly.
Through all of this 14 years journey with this, the reason why we've created things, why we put things out in the world has not changed, but certain things have evolved and changed and tweaked and all that kind of stuff, depending on how we do it or whatever. And so I think, but again, continuing to be reminded of that purpose, and are you still aligned with that purpose, actually might make the difference of like how you're feeling. Like, have you gotten so far off of that path that, that's why maybe X, Y, and Z isn't working, or this isn't giving me life anymore, or whatever it is. Like, I think just being reminded of that, looking at where are you at, is the purpose still in line with where I was and why I did this and my whole why about everything. it's just, I think it's just a good thing to step back and to process and to reevaluate and make sure that your purpose is still aligned with the thing that you're producing or whatever it is. Because that in a lot of ways makes all the difference. Whether, I guess, from the worldly perspective, if it's successful or not, if you're still in line with your purpose, you're going to get so much life out of it. At least that's how I feel.
And you're going to impact lives
and you're
as
going
well.
to
Even if it's just
others.
one, you're going to impact lives.
Exactly.
And again, super important to think about your personal life and how those decisions in your business affect that as well. And you know, we were at that point for us where, like Pat said, like our purpose hasn't changed, but like our vision of how that might play out has changed. Like some of the things that we thought maybe involved more of like a physical presence in certain things and stuff like that. And that has evolved to us thinking more about like a virtual presence because of how we want our personal life to be.
Or even
and
like
that
this
kind of thing.
podcast. Like,
Yeah, that's a great example
you
too.
know,
Yeah.
again, the purpose of why we're creating this isn't much different than why I started to draw and create things. You know, it's just, it all plays. But again, it's I would have never have thought we would be doing a podcast 14 years ago, but you know, now we are. You know, so I think it's just cool. But again, we always fall back on the purpose and the why behind what we're doing, and allow that to kind of, you know, give us the fuel to do what we're doing. So
go, and it sounds cheesy when I say this, but you've got to go with your heart in some things right now. And that's what we mean when we say your purpose, like the heart of your business and the purpose of your business. That is how you are most likely going to have to make some decisions right now, because again, the trends that we're seeing the past 2 years. Now, if in 2 years' time, this is, you know, like maybe even this year, if it's been 3 straight years and that trend is going, then like, okay, maybe we need to reevaluate and stuff like that, because
there might be some really obvious things.
There might be some obvious things, but I feel like because of how COVID has affected so many things the past 2 years, that it may not be the best time to make some drastic, like, I'm no longer doing that. Now, again, if you feel like that doesn't align with you and that's not feeling right anymore, because we have said no to a lot of things, be like, we're not doing that anymore. We're just stopping that. And that is okay. But also don't like dramatically make those decisions right now too, because you can't seem to figure it out because if data's not showing, your numbers aren't showing, that kind of stuff. It's not making sense. It's confusing, that kind of stuff. Really look at those things and say, like, what are the things that give me life? What are the things that align with this purpose I have in this business? And I'm going to keep going forward with those things. And that's how we did it. That's what we've decided and made some decisions. Again, we're going to reevaluate. We're going to check in every month. We're going to make sure, like, did we make the right decision? Because you got to still make, you know, look at that and that kind of thing and see what's happening. But if you are struggling with knowing what to do next, what to do in 2022 with your business, what focus areas to have, that kind of stuff. Like, you've got to go back to your purpose, and that will light your path in a much clearer way than maybe some of the other stuff that we have traditionally leaned on to be that kind of driver, the arrows to which paths we should take.
Definitely.
So let us know, like, are you struggling with this? And we know a lot of you are, because we've heard from you. But are you struggling with this? And what have you found helpful, maybe? Or maybe you haven't done this yet, and that's okay too. Like, whenever you get time to reflect and think about what you want this new year to be, we'd love to hear from you. And you can pop over to Instagram and send us a direct message, because we'd love to start a chat with you in here as well. And on top of that, we want to hear from you on what you want to hear on this podcast this year. So many of the things and topics that we pick are because we have heard from you guys, or there's a question we're seeing from you, and that kind of thing. So, as you know, the podcast is a wide range of things. Like, this was very much a business focus, but we do lots of stuff about family and just life in general and things like that. So whatever questions you have or things you're like, oh, I'd love to hear their perspective. We're not experts.
No.
But we've lived some life.
We're just
and have
talking
some
from experiences. Yeah,
exactly.
So
Thank you for tuning in, and we are excited for this new year with you. Thanks for joining us on today's episode of the Laurent Collective podcast. If you enjoyed today's podcast, be sure to subscribe and leave a review, which helps others find our podcast. Continue the conversation with us over on Instagram at Laurent Collective.
we look forward to going deeper than just surface talk with you again next week.